Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to day 2 of the learning a little bit about Moonshot Club. So when you join, go ahead and drop a hello in the chat so I can make sure that the chat box is actually working. So I'd love to see you all say hello. If you're joining live, thank you for being here. And if you're watching the replay, be sure to comment replay so that I can see how people are using the platform. Souls, and welcome back to day 2. Well, there you go. I have some feedback happening here. So once again, if you're watching the replay, put it in there so that I know exactly how people are using this platform. And it helps inform me for future videos and lives. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm Coach Doris. I am a life strategist and certified life coach. I am the owner of Prompted Collective, as well as the founder of Moonshot Club. So I'd like to know who's ready to get started. Go ahead and put a me in the chat if you're ready to get started. I see that we have Coach Sarah is actually joining us in the chat. Hi, Coach Sarah. And if anyone else is out there, I see that there's a couple more people watching, but they're not chatting in the chat box, and that's okay. You don't have to chat, but if you want to say hello, I'd love to hear from you. So yesterday I told you a little bit about me and why I created Moonshot Club, and then we took a look around the clubhouse to see a little bit behind the scenes. And if anyone has any questions about that or anything else as we go along today, just drop it in the chat and I'll do my best to stay on top of it. If I don't get to your questions in the chat or I don't see them in the chat, I will definitely answer them afterward. Coach Sarah's driving, so drive safe, Coach Sarah. Today we're looking into the Moonshot process. And as I mentioned yesterday, Moonshot Club was designed so that I could coach more people than I could if I were coaching just one-on-one. Plus, it's at a more accessible rate than my one-on-one. Because of course, where we're all growing together, it doesn't need to cost as much as what it would be if you were getting my full undivided attention all by yourself in a private setting. So when I was trying to create the new iteration of myself all those years ago, and well, a few other times along the way, this is the process that I use for my new goal, to help as many people as possible to shoot for the moon and live a life that they love. So if you're willing, I'd love for you to share what you're working on in your life right now. Or if you're like me, maybe you're not sure what it was or what it is at this time, but it just feels like there has to be more. If that's you, put more in the chat. I'm just going to have a little drink here. Oh, hi, Coach Joyce. Thanks for joining. It took me a while to figure out what I wanted or where I wanted to go. That's why all those years ago when I was trying to figure things out on my own, it was a lot more difficult. I needed a coach to prompt me in just the right way to figure it out. In fact, I still get coached. You heard me speaking of Coach Joyce and Coach Sarah. Those are coaches that are in my coaching mastermind, and we coach each other sometimes to help each other grow and learn. I say sometimes, regularly we coach each other because you can't see what you can't see, right? I spoke a little yesterday about blind spots. If you don't realize that there's a blind spot there, it's not until someone points it out to you that you can really examine it and it's no longer a blind spot, right? When you do that shoulder check when you're driving, you're eliminating that blind spot. But if you're not even sure to do that shoulder check, you think your mirrors are enough, right? So that's where we're going to start on in this process. Once you enroll in Moonshot Club, you'll have access to the clubhouse as it sits right now, as you saw it yesterday. You can get started right away with a pre-recorded course, or even just familiarize yourself with the clubhouse and check out all the things that you have access to. Then on Monday, September 3rd, we're going to start the live training, and they're going to be in workshops. So it'll be very similar to the pre-recorded course, but taught live so that you can ask questions. And as I said, a workshop. So we can work together and you can start putting actions on your goals right away. We can also go into a little further detail depending on what people need. And I found for myself, when I do a live course versus a pre-recorded course, I get a lot more out of it. So I'm finding for myself and a few people that I spoke to that attending something live seems to get results a little faster and seems to get me to integrate and apply that. Because it's like Jim Quick says, knowledge is power is slightly off. Knowledge, applied knowledge, is power. So it's one thing to know something and a whole other thing to be applying it. So that's what we're going to do. And the live workshops will be recorded so that if you can't make it, you'll have access to it in the clubhouse, because maybe you can't make it every workshop every week, but you can make most of it. And I don't want you to feel like you're missing any bits and pieces. So it'll be there for you. Class 1 will be creating your moonshot. Has anyone ever tried to work towards a goal when you haven't had an opportunity to fully clarify it in your mind? If that's something that you've started doing, go ahead and put it in the chat as to what it was that you were trying to work on and whether it was successful for you or not. I know for me and for most of my clients, they have an idea for what they want, but without getting that clarification, they never really seem to get to the end of it. So this is where we figure out and clarify exactly what your moonshot is. I know the implication of moonshot is that it is a huge world-changing goal. And it is. It should change your world. It might not be creating a space program to actually go to the moon, but it is something that changes your life. And maybe it is a bigger goal. Maybe it is about rescuing dolphins or implementing some sort of new energy power to revolutionize the world. And that's wonderful. Even that needs to be broken down into a smaller goal. So let's fully visualize it. But maybe it's also having time for yourself when you're a new mom. That can change your world. Absolutely. So I'm going to help you customize it to your life the way that it is right now. It's pointless for us to make a business plan for the empire that you'll one day run if your heart of hearts just wants you to be a stay-at-home mom with your kids and never run a business at all, right? And vice versa. Why would we create a stay-at-home lifestyle if you don't really want to have children and you really don't like staying at home and you'd prefer to be working 80-hour weeks and becoming a mogul? That's not to say that there isn't room for each thing as part of your plan, but as Stephen Covey says, we want to begin with the end in mind. Are you in for creating a fully realized and clear vision of your moonshot? Leave a yes in the chat to let me know you're still with me. If not, or if you have questions, pop them in there too. Oh, have a drink. What are you guys all drinking right now? I'm having some tea. So I'm wondering what you guys are sipping on. Go ahead and leave that in the chat too. Cocoa. Yeah, that would have been really good. Anyway, let's move on to the next class where we begin the process of breaking this down. So the next workshop or class will be breaking it down into steps, or I like to refer to them as missions. when the folks at NASA were planning to go to the moon for the first time, they had several missions set up before so that they could test their theories, their components, and even decide if humans would be able to withstand going into space. The final mission was broken down into what has to be true in order for this to be successful. Then each hypothesis was prioritized and ordered to create and test. The same holds true for our moonshot. What missions do you need to go on in order to make your moonshot a success? Likely there are things that you need to experience, maybe things you need to create, things you have to learn, habits, and absolutely new beliefs to install. We work on all of it together and come up with a high-level plan. No details yet. So let me know in the comments how this is starting to make you feel. At this point, this is usually when feelings start to overwhelm people. I won't go into that process a whole lot, but it's going to make an appearance in Moonshot Club at some point. For now, let's just say that your perception or your programming, which is based on your thoughts, your experiences, and your beliefs of that situation, forms an emotion which triggers a behavior and then creates an outcome that provides evidence to your original perception. All right, that seemed like a lot. Inevitably, it creates a cycle. So let's take an example. Have you ever heard of someone say, oh, it's just my luck? Or with my luck, whatever, the fill in the blank, maybe I never get a close parking spot or something like that. This is what they believe to be true. So every time it happens, it reinforces that belief. And the times that it doesn't happen, most of the time it doesn't even register on the radar. So anyways, as I said, I can't get too much into that because that is huge on its own. But that seems to be where the feelings start to come in, the feelings of overwhelm, because you get thoughts about various different pieces of your moonshot and of this bigger goal. Oh, it's not a good time, or oh, these other things are happening in my life right now, so I really can't take this on, or a lot of feelings of unworthiness or not being enough, or it's not something that I can do. All kinds of feelings. Or maybe you're one of those people who gets really excited at this point and realizes, you know what? This is me. This is something that I can definitely do. This is something that I can take care of. And I want you to know that it's okay to have those feelings. Absolutely. Your feelings are valid. Always. If you want to reach your goals, you need to get a little uncomfortable and stretch yourself beyond the negative feelings. So this is where, at this point where we're breaking things down, is often when people start to back off of their goals because they don't think they can happen. And this is where coaching comes in, because as a coach, I can see your potential. Good coaches can see potentials, and they can believe in those potentials in you. And they can help you create a strategy to reach your goal so that you can do it on your terms. So there are a lot of layers to this program to make sure that you don't quit on you, because you deserve this. You absolutely can reach that goal. So let's move on to the third workshop. This class is where we take the initial mission that we selected as most important from all the things that we broke down into the different missions of what would need to be true. We select the one that's most important to do first. During the class or during the workshop, we break it down into smaller projects because that mission likely has different pieces to it as well. So Each project is something that you can do during one lunar cycle. And I teach you during this class how to break a project into an action plan based on your values and the moon's phases for when to take action and when to rest. So let's start with values. Why values? Because I'm adamant that you work on only the things that are important to you. If it is not important, why are we doing them? So many of my clients are trying to live the life that they think they should instead of the life that they want. And this keeps them stuck and unhappy. So we work with your values. We identify what your values are in case you have not yet done that. And if you have, then we keep them in line as well so that we can add to them. And of course, as I mentioned, the moon's phases. So each phase has a different action that you would take in the phase. And the first bit is pretty open and self-explanatory as far as the waxing phase being the action phase, because you have the most energy, absolutely. So let's start out with the first phase being the new moon. The new moon is the planning phase. So that phase really is only about 3 days that you would use that time. And that time you would have a lot more focus, and you would have your problem solving skills online, and you would sit and plan what you are going to do during this project, during this lunar cycle. So you plan for each phase and how that will work out. So let's go over the different phases so you know what you would be planning. So the waxing phase, as the moon is building in light, your energy is going to increase, and you will take all the actions that you can to work towards your goal during that time. So you would plan what it is that you need to do. Now, during the full moon, this tends to be your more communicative phase. This is when you can go out and speak to people more. It'd be good for negotiating. It'd be good for pitching. It'd be good for doing presentations. It would be good for going out with your friends. It would be good for date night. It would be good for talking about your finances with your spouse, or whatever other communicative things that you need to be doing. That would happen during the full moon phase. So after the full moon phase, and again, the full moon phase is probably about 3 or 4 days where you would have the most energy, and unfortunately a lot less focus, but you'd be much more personable. You might find yourself, I've heard people describe it as vibrating, like they have so much energy that they just need to get out. So you're going to plan for that time and what you're going to do at that point. And then after the full moon, we go into the waning phase. So the waning gibbous, when it's just slightly less than full, that is when you're going to be tying up any loose ends. So finishing up whatever pieces of your project that you have left to finish up. And at this point, your focus is going to start building again. So as the light is getting smaller, your focus gets higher, but your energy gets lower. So your energy follows the light, and your focus is completely opposite of the light. So as your focus is building, you're wrapping things up. This is a good time to do administrative work right up until the last quarter, or the waning quarter, when the moon looks like a half moon. And so that's a great time to do all of those administrative tasks, the book work, the paperwork, writing up the final reports, things like that. And then on the last quarter, that is a good time to do your evaluation. So when you think about your whole last lunar cycle, your plan the plan that you made in the beginning and where you are now, how did it go? And you would decide what went well, what didn't, how you can improve, what you're going to take with you into the next cycle, and what you're going to leave behind. Okay? Now, this is about learning, and this is not about bashing yourself or shaming yourself or anything else. It's about learning and moving forward. Okay? And then that final little bit, when it is less than a half moon, that is the waning crescent until we get back to the new moon. That waning crescent phase, you're going to be doing very little towards your project, maybe working on the very minimal pieces of reinforcing a habit that you've been working on. So that's all that you're doing during that section. It's all about self-care. It's about renewal. It's about relaxing. It's about making sure that you are taking care of you and all of the things that you do. Does that mean you don't take care of yourself all the way up to that point? No, of course not. There are things that you need to do every single day to be taking care of yourself. But at this time, this is where there's an extra effort towards taking care of you. Now, I know not everyone can do this. Not everyone is in the same situation. But I encourage you to find something. And during your new moon, I want you to be planning to have something that you can do that renews yourself. Maybe it's more walks. Maybe it's more time alone. Maybe it's more time out with friends. Although many people don't like to be around other people at this time of the moon, if you're an extreme extrovert, maybe that's how you relax. So it's whatever it is that works for you. And that's what I encourage you the most through this whole process, is finding what works for you and applying it to your life. It's all about self-awareness. So does that make sense? I want you to know in the comments if anyone has any questions about the moon phases, how you would plan and execute that. I will keep an eye on the comments as we go if anyone has any questions. So once you have your project laid out, you planned it during the new moon, then, and the course is, the workshops are all complete. It should take about 3 weeks to get those workshops completed. Then our weekly calls turn into moonlight guidance and mostly hot seat coaching. Hot seat coaching is when we are all together as a group on Zoom, and I ask out if anyone has anything that they're working on that they would like some coaching on. Maybe they've run across an obstacle, or maybe they have a question about something, they need another perspective about something, whatever the case is. And I coach them one-on-one with the rest of the room watching. And we go through whatever topic it is, and we spend probably about 5 to 15 minutes, depending on the topic, coaching on what exactly that person needs coaching. And what I found with this type of coaching is that beyond the person being coached, the people listening can really see how it applies to their life. Because even if their goal is completely different, even if their life is completely different, there's often something in there in the human experience that they can take from it. Some little golden nugget that really works for them, that they hear that they never considered before. And it really helps them out of what they're working on as well. So I think that it's important to be able to have something like that. And although we do coaching during the workshops as well, it's a lot less than what we're going to be doing after the workshops are complete. Now, beyond that, We also have the weekly check-ins. So those are the coaching calls, and that's the workshop. You have the pre-recorded course that I showed you last night, but we also have weekly check-ins that I will be emailing out, as well as putting it in our private Facebook group for whichever way that you prefer to respond to that. And those are check-ins just to let you know, okay, here's where we are in the moon. Here's the basic types of things that you might be working on, and I want to know how you're doing. And every single person that checks in will get a response from me, and we're going to tweak and see how things are going to try to increase the self-awareness that you're working with so that we can make sure that you have the system that works for you. Because we don't want to try to fit a system into your life. Sorry, we want to make a system work for you, not you to work for a system, right? It just doesn't make sense that way. So this is where coaching is important. This is where working with a life strategist is important. And it's about, like I said, learning what works for you. Does anyone have questions so far? Well, thank you, Sarah. Now, what you're working on so far, my guess is that you wouldn't be in my program if what you're doing is already working, right? I mean, that's just a little tough love there. But it comes from a place of love because I want to help you. And I want you to see the blind spots that we were talking about earlier, because we're relying on our mirrors and there's just no way that we can see those spots unless we do the shoulder checks. And unless someone reminds you, you might not be doing them. So we want to work through those obstacles and produce the results that you want, that you need. And it's normal and natural. It's like Tony Robbins says, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. So if you want to get something different, you need to do something different. And you can't know that other way because it's all that you know. Until you've been exposed to something else, that's all you have. It's human programming. And when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Not sure who actually said that. I know that a lot of different people have been credited for that quote, but it is so very true. You can get coaching through the whole program, as I mentioned, but a lot of time will be taken up by the workshops for the first 3 weeks. And then after that, most of the time will be taken by coaching. But I don't want you to forget that there is also the free Facebook community as part of this program, and it's private, and there's e-coaching. So at any point, people have done a lot of work on themselves, and they found some successes by using e-coaching. Because if you commit to every day sending a message to e-coaching, you're getting back some coaching little bit every single day, and it's available to you 24/7. And I will reply to you within 24 hours. And it's just a form that you would fill out, and it basically turns into emailing back and forth between you and me. So that's another thing that you have available to you to get the coaching through the entire program. For additional support, information is, well, informative, but the saying that knowledge is power, as I said earlier, is slightly flawed, and applied knowledge is power. You have to use what you learn. And that's where coaching is so wonderful. And I've spoken a lot about coaching tonight, but another wonderful opportunity is that supportive community in Facebook. So I do have people that are in that Facebook group that can be very supportive and can even help you ask you questions. And the bigger the group gets, the more variety of perspectives that we get in there, I really think the better that it will be, because the more viewpoints we have, the better we are at seeing those blind spots. So if you ever have a question, you can reach out e-coaching or in that Facebook group. Another thing that I always want my club members to know is that they should reach out if they have any questions. I don't know you're struggling unless you tell me. I'm not going to assume anything. So make sure that you reach out if you have questions or if you have concerns, if you have even a niggling of a feeling that something's just not quite right, or that you could be doing something a little bit different, but you're not sure what maybe. I would prefer that you reach out, because helping you with small potential obstacles or anything on that spectrum is a lot easier than facing big barriers. Of course, I'll help you through big barriers, but if we can resolve it at the small potential, then that is a much better place to resolve it for sure. And I never want you to feel like you're struggling alone. That's what you're paying me for, is to help you through this and work with you. It's not to say that you can't do it on your own, because you can, but this will accelerate your progress, because 2 heads are better than 1. And since we're a club, can you imagine a whole tribe of heads? You just can't do anything but succeed. I can't see anything other than that at this point. Let me know in the chat if you have ever been in conversation with someone and you could clearly see how this person could resolve the situation, but they just couldn't see it. I suspect that this happens a lot. I know it's happened to me before, that on both sides, that I had an issue and I just couldn't see a clear way out. And a friend said something and it was so obvious and so simple. And I don't know why I didn't see it and didn't understand it. But it's because they weren't as emotionally invested in the problem. So they could see it. They had a different perspective. They had a different opinion. And so they could clearly see it when I couldn't. That's one of those blind spots that we were talking about. So it's way easier to examine things in an objective way. Also, we talked a little bit about the human programming a little earlier, and different people with different human programming can help point out blind spots as well. If you fully immerse yourself in this program, I cannot see any way that you wouldn't make progress toward your moonshot, to live that life that you've dreamed of. Before we wrap up for today, I want to let you know that I've decided to extend the early bird sale until the end of day tomorrow, so that people have the opportunity tomorrow, September 20th, in case someone's watching the replay in a week or so from now, so that people have the opportunity to participate in all 3 days of these information sessions and still get the sale price 25% off. I just see I have a few comments here. Thank you, Coach Sarah. You helped me prioritize when I was overwhelmed by a busy life and guided me towards accomplishing my goals. Thank you so very much. I'm so grateful, and it's kind of odd, but as a coach, I celebrate with you, almost as though that win is part of me. Like, you take a piece of my heart with you when you are accomplishing things and when you're reaching your goals and you're really trying to get things done, and I can be a part of that with you. That forever carries me forward, and I'm grateful for all of my clients because of that. Just a reminder that I'll be doing a Q&A tomorrow where I'll be answering questions live. If you cannot be there and have a question about Moonshot Club, about coaching, about productivity, about being a life strategist, about anything, send it to me either here on this platform, or in an email, hello@promptedcollective.com, and I'll address it during the live so that you can see it on the replay. Thank you to those of you who made it live, and thank you to those of you who took the time to watch the replay. Visit Moonshot Club info page at promptedcollective.com/Moonshot Club. The fall session starts on September 23rd. I hope you can join me tomorrow, same time, same place. And remember, you matter, so please take care.